of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries? Do you believe when you look your kids in the eye that they're going to have a better future than you did?
I mean, my God.
You're getting
you guys
things wrong,
don't want to
Tara.
listen because you're hypocrites.
No, you're just getting the facts wrong,
time and
time
again.
and
Because
again.
you don't want to hear the truth about the fact that you are not willing to call
What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion?
Way.
My boss is Muslim. I work at a leading public policy think tank in the American right. I am doing Donald Trump now. Donald Trump gets it right when he calls Abdul al-Sayed someone who is sympathetic.
Welcome to Political Crossfire, where we break down political debates and examine the facts behind the headlines. Things got seriously heated on CNN when Setmayer and Jesse Arm went head-to-head over Abdul al-Sayed, Donald Trump, MAGA, religion, Medicare for all, and the Michigan Senate race. Republicans are trying to paint al-Sayed as everything from a communist to a jihadist sympathizer, but when Setmayer starts pressing Arm on whether that same outrage applies to Donald Trump's own rhetoric about Muslims and Somalis, this panel absolutely erupts. And underneath all the shouting is a much bigger political question. Are voters really afraid of al-Sayed's progressive policies, or are these attacks designed to make them afraid of the man himself? Stick around because this debate gets personal. People start talking over each other, and there are some contradictions here that deserve a much closer look. If you enjoy heated political debates, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
Tonight, Republicans are going all Kendrick Lamar on Democrats. To paraphrase, they're not like us. That blueprint is most evident in Michigan, where progressive candidate Abdul al-Sayed won the Democratic Senate primary. Republicans have attacked his religion directly or indirectly, deployed ads using his full name, and some have suggested he is un-American and even a terrorist. President Trump joined the attacks today in the Oval Office. Despite not referencing al-Sayed by name, he did add a new label.
Well, the one thing is we have jihadists being elected all over the place. We have this, whether it's communism, jihadism. It's a lot of friend of mine called up. He said, really, you should use the word jihadist because that's what's happening. And when you look at the radicalism and the craziness of the candidates and the stupidity of what they're suggesting, people don't want to have radical lunatics involved in running our country, and that's what we have.
This weekend, President Trump posted an image online describing two very different Americas, one of Trump and his wife Melania, the other of al-Sayed and his wife. Al-Sayed responded to this on Sunday.
What was your response when you saw that?
Yeah, he's right. One in which your overlords are two people who don't like each other but joint in the interest of making billions of dollars off of you, or two people who genuinely love each other, enjoyed some pancakes together, want to come together to build the kind of America where they can raise a family and know that that family is going to have the good things. So yes, you've got two different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries? Do you believe when you look your kids in the eye that they're going to have a better future than you did?
All right, so that was al-Sayed's response. Now, if what the president was saying was too subtle for you, Nancy Mace, Republican member of Congress from South Carolina, tweeted over the weekend, quote, "Every single Muslim holding public office in America is a Trojan horse and a threat to both national security and our republic. We refuse to be silent." You're shaking your head back and forth.
That's ridiculous. Nancy Mace is irrelevant. She's on her way out of Congress while the Republican Party is purging its people who make anti-Muslim comments.
Whether it's the president?
Oh, well, he's 100% right about the fact that Abdul al-Sayed is a jihadist sympathizer, but I'll get to that. Give me 1 second. Okay, Nancy Mace is making gross comments about Muslims. It's terrible. It has no place in the Republican Party. Andy Ogles was just primaried and defeated, who made similar gross comments about Muslims over the years. Thomas Massie, who made gross comments about Jews in Israel, was just excised from the GOP. Meanwhile, what do you have in the Democratic Party? You do have people like Abdul al-Sayed, who, when he was asked about Islamist terror massacre that nearly unfolded in my hometown at a synagogue just down the street from where I grew up, his response was to tell his campaign that it was a risk for him to offer any condemnation whatsoever, and that it was really just the result of hurt people who hurt people, because Israel had done something in the Middle East, thousands of miles away, to this guy's family or something. That is absurd. That is offensive. And I can tell you personally that I know hundreds of Democrats in the Metro Detroit area who have never voted for a Republican in their life, who will this November, because Abdul al-Sayed is an Islamist sympathetic, communist adjacent, hardline extremist radical, and there's no place for him in American public life, and a lot of Democrats believe so as well. A lot of Haley Stevens voters believe so as well.
Words like adjacent and sympathizer are doing a lot of work there to try to smear a candidate with beliefs that he does not actually hold.
I am smearing a candidate 100%.
The point here is that, for example, President Trump describing him as a jihadist. There is nothing in his record that suggests he is a jihadist.
Excuse me, when the Iranian Supreme Leader was killed by the American military in a successful operation, Abdul
an obvious dog whistle to religious prejudice.
No, it's a prejudice toward Islamism.
To bigots who don't want to elect a Muslim or an Arab.
Excuse me,
and
you're not contending with the reality that he is out there defending the actions of religious extremists who carry out terrorism in his name. I just got done condemning stupid Republicans who are making stupid comments about Muslims. My boss is Muslim. I work at a leading public policy think tank in the American right. I am doing Donald Trump now. Donald Trump gets it right when he calls Abdul al-Sayed someone who is sympathetic to jihadists.
That was unconstitutional.
We are not talking about the Muslim ban. That was in 2017.
You got very animated. You're very upset about these things that were comments that were made. But you are not that upset when Donald Trump does it. I'm not understanding.
Well, you'll have to forgive me because Donald Trump didn't try to ram an explosive-laden truck into a synagogue with 140 preschoolers in it in my hometown. That was the guy who Abdul al-Sayed was criticizing.
But where is that smoke for Donald Trump?
I have it. I'll provide it. I'll give it to you.
You just did not. When he instituted a Muslim ban unconstitutionally.
That was in 2017. It's not the topic we're talking about.
It was one of the first things he did, but he still did it. Okay.
It wasn't a religious ban.
Yes,
it was. No, it wasn't.
Guys, we're going to do one at a time, else we're going to go to break here. So, Tara, you first.
Thank you. The Muslim ban, the whole countries, the attacks on Somalis and their religion, and all the Ilhan Omar. You can
when did Trump attack Somali's religion?
Go ahead, Tara, finish.
I mean, my God.
You're getting
you guys
things wrong,
don't want to
Tara.
listen because you're hypocrites.
No, you're just getting the facts wrong.
And so you try to overtalk me because
again.
you don't want to hear the truth about the fact that you are not willing to call
Donald Trump say about Somali's religion? What did Donald Trump say about Somali's religion?
10 seconds and we'll go around the table. Jesse, go ahead.
About him going after Somalis and Muslims.
I yield my time back to Tara to ask what Donald Trump said about Somali's religion.
Shutting up so I can actually get a sentence out. Like, I'm not going to give you credit for being quiet so I can finish. Go ahead. We'll go on.
All right.
Okay.
Since you can't seem to answer.
I want to look at it politically, that Abdul does have to do some work with the Jewish voters that are in Michigan. We know that he has to do work with rural working class voters. We know that he has to do work with black voters. I think he's going to do that work. I hope Mallory McMurrow, who has talked about the anti-Semitism that her husband faced, who's talked about how the Temple Israel attack had such an impact on her, is going to be able to help facilitate those conversations. I hope he's able to come to some middle about this. I also want to point out his opponent, Mike Rogers, is running a lot of ads on fear, the idea that people will be scared of Abdul. And I think people are more tired than they are scared right now. I mean, this really is the environment for a Democrat, even a Democrat that I didn't support in the primary, that I think might not be as competitive as a Haley Stevens, I think could really ride a wave that is a lot of the economic angst that people are feeling.
But the fear is coming from the Jewish community in that state, who understand what it is he stands for and understand and have seen over and over and over again him defending, using as a surrogate, Hassan Piker. Like, they're aware of that. And even after all the conversations came forward, even after they aired all these clips about the awful things that Hassan Piker has said, not even years ago, but recently, and he will not condemn any of that.
I will say, I do think he needs to break his relationship with Hassan, because every day that he spends having to talk about Hassan's comments is another day he's not spending actually running his
campaign. He should also have to be held to account for choosing to associate with him.
I want to say just one thing, because you brought up the Jewish community in Michigan, as did you. Tim Scott is not a member of the Jewish community in Michigan, who is repeatedly, and Democrat Republican Senate ads, repeatedly using Abdul al-Sayed's full name, Abdul Rahman, et cetera, et cetera. And listen to how Tim Scott defended using the full name there.
Abdul Rahman Muhammad al-Sayed, the most radical Senate candidate in America.
Pretty dangerous. You're using his full name in these attack ads, which has gotten some attention. Abdul Rahman Muhammad al-Sayed. He goes by Abdul al-Sayed. Are you trying to say, hint to voters, he's Muslim?
Not at all. What we're saying what we're only saying to voters is a simple thing. He says he's the most dangerous candidate you can find. He's right. We should trust his words, not ours.
But why not just use his name, Abdul al-Sayed, which he goes by?
Well, listen, I go by Timothy Eugene, and so I get called that all the time. Here's what I know without question. It's about what he stands for.
I have never heard of Tim Scott referred to as Timothy Eugene in a campaign ad.
I mean, look, I don't know how he says that with a straight face, honestly. The idea that using Tim Scott's full name unabbreviated is equivalent to using Abdul El-Sayed's full name is just ludicrous. It is obviously, in El-Sayed's case, an appeal to anti-Muslim, anti-Arab sentiment. And I just wanted to pick up on something. I just want to pick up on something Yanis said there, because she rightly talked about the fact that El-Sayed has some work to do. Yeah. Had Haley Stevens won that primary, she would also have had work to do, particularly with Arab Americans in a state that has the highest per capita population of Arab Americans in the country, who believe that the Biden administration disgraced itself on Gaza.
She would have way less work to do because she'd have all the moderates voting for her.
Purported concerns for human rights, all the while shoveling weapons to Mr. Netanyahu with which to kill 70,000
Palestinians. You guys are like very concerned
it always goes back to the Jews, like every single time. Which is a perfect example of like some of what you're talking about, like the coded language and whatnot. El-Sayed has brought up AIPAC and brings it up absolutely every single time he can, because he wants to talk about the Jews and the people that you're talking about. That Haley Stevens,
because they support the most right-wing government in Israel's history.
Oh my God!
They're Jews who support.
Dude, chill. We understand that Ireland cares a lot about Palestine, but
because we don't like
here, all right?
In Michigan, most people don't actually give a shit. And people
Hang on. We're going to do this. 10 seconds around the table.
People in Michigan are actually scared of Abdul El-Sayed, not because of Israel or whatever. No one cares about Israel. He's going to rip away Obamacare. He's going to rip away private health insurance from the 66% of Americans who have it. They ran a campaign. Rashida Tlaib was attacking Haley Stevens for collecting support from General Mills and General Motors. Michiganders don't like the sound of that. Anti-business politics.
To the contrary, a lot of these claims are made to distract from what Al-Sayed is standing for on an economic basis. Can I finish, please? He stands for Medicare for all, which has polled well for years.
Which would eliminate private health insurance.
Just let him talk, and then we're going over here. So.
He stands for the reduction of money in politics, which people of all kinds of ideology agree with, and those kinds of appeals to improve people's economic lives is why he won the primary.
Last word on that?
Yeah, he won the primary by the skin of his teeth, despite the fact that he was supposed to lead by about 10 to 13 points, depending on the poll, because people realized what he stood for, and they rejected it, which is precisely why Democrats are saying privately, they are not going to do this on TV, that he's going to lose, which makes it even more difficult for the Democrats to take back the Senate. In fact, now Republicans might even pick up a seat.
All right, we have much more to discuss, Alexander.
Man, that panel completely went off the rails. Once everybody started talking over everybody, the most important part of this debate almost got buried. Republicans are perfectly entitled to challenge Abdul El-Sayed, question his Medicare for all plan, challenge his position on Israel, ask about his associations, push him on taxes, private insurance, jobs, or anything else he wants to do as a senator. That's politics. But calling somebody a jihadist, communist, or terrorist sympathizer is a completely different level of accusation. And that's where Taras Setmayer had Jesse Arm in a difficult position. If inflammatory rhetoric about Muslims is unacceptable when Nancy Mace or other Republicans use it, why does the standard suddenly become more complicated when Donald Trump enters the conversation? You can't condemn the rhetoric when it's politically convenient and then start searching for technicalities when your own guy does something similar. And then we get Tim Scott emphasizing Abdul Rahman Mohamed El-Sayed in an attack ad. Come on. You can argue that using someone's full legal name is technically legitimate, but viewers aren't stupid. When Jake Tapper asked why they weren't simply using the name El-Sayed actually campaigns under, that deserved a real answer. And comparing it to people supposedly calling Tim Scott Timothy Eugene doesn't really address what voters are questioning. But here's where Democrats need to be careful too. El-Sayed won the primary. That doesn't mean the general election is automatically his. If there are Jewish voters uncomfortable with his positions or associations, talk to them. If working class voters have concerns about Medicare for all, explain the policy. If people with private health insurance are worried about losing their coverage, answer them directly. That's how you win an argument. Because underneath all this noise is a Michigan Senate race that should be about something much more important. Which candidate is actually going to improve people's lives? Healthcare, groceries, housing, jobs, wages, money in politics. Those are issues people wake up thinking about. And if Republicans believe El-Sayed's progressive agenda is genuinely bad for Michigan, then make that case. You shouldn't need his religion to do the heavy lifting for you. So here's the question. I want everybody in the comments answering. Are Republicans legitimately exposing Abdul El-Sayed's politics, or are they deliberately using his Muslim identity to make voters afraid of him? I'm genuinely interested to see where you guys land on this one. Drop your answer below, and subscribe to Political Crossfire for more heated political debates and analysis. I'll see you in the next one.